Hey, what's up? It's your favorite YouTuber here. That's right, the world-renowned Phone Stevie. Today I'm going to keep things long and sweet, just the way you like it. So if you've seen my recent uploads, which, who are we kidding? Of course you have, I'm famous. You'll notice that I've been posting primarily Elden Ring content. Nothing special, just me being really good at the game. No big deal. I won't go too much into detail about my base game experience, but I absolutely loved this game. It was so incredibly difficult, yet so incredibly rewarding. Even though there were times I was slamming my desk and screaming at my monitor, after each boss win I felt almost high. It was quite the experience. Anyway, after beating the base game, I basically hopped straight into the DLC, which honestly was a mistake because at this point I was kind of burnt out on the game, as I had put in well over 120 hours into it over the span of not even a month, I believe, which may not seem like that much to most of you, but for a 30-plus-year-old with a kid who works nights, for me, it was a lot. So I started into the DLC, and it was really difficult. Like, even the random side enemies were cracked out. Of course, I anticipated that the DLC would be hard, but they did too much, quite frankly. I was over level 200 and died to the very first nothing enemy like 5 times. Now, sure, you can chalk this up to being a major skill issue, but come on, man. I beat Melania, and this is how I'm rewarded. Whatever. I'll just move on, and surely I'll be fine. So eventually I got to the first boss, the Dancing Lion. Of course, this was after dying probably more than a dozen times just trying to run through the little castle area to get to him. All the while spamming my heal just to stay alive. Awesome game. Anyway, this boss fight wasn't even that hard really, but my heart just wasn't in it. So I ended up dying over 100 times to that dumb lion, which is crazy. I muscled through a couple more bosses, the Golden Hippo and Rolana, who I ended up beating in about 16 tries. Because I kind of just spammed my weapon art to stance break her a bunch. I was just getting impatient. I don't know. I just wanted to get through these bosses just for the sake of it. At this point, I wasn't having fun, which is a shame because before I jumped into the DLC, Elden Ring was by far my favorite game of all time. After my fight with Rolana, I veered off and stumbled upon Romina, which at the time I had no idea she was meant to be the penultimate boss. I basically shouldn't have been in that region yet, but I was. For some reason, this boss just pissed me off. I hated everything about her moveset and became livid. So much so to the point where I just decided I didn't want to play the game anymore. I wasn't having fun, and I was only on the 3rd main boss, which meant I had way more difficult fights to come. I was done. I ended up not playing the game again for 3 months, and let me tell you, that break was very much needed. It gave me time to just chill out for a while, and I actually started to miss the game. Anyway, I was excited and ready to jump back into the DLC. But before I did, I actually decided to learn how to play on keyboard and mouse, and that was the best decision I could have made for this game. After acclimating, I felt like I was just better at the game. I don't know why, but I just felt more in control with the camera, and every action seemed more responsive. I think I ended up beating Romina after like 10 or 15 more tries, which is kind of crazy. After that, I went and pretty much rolled through the remaining bosses. Granted, I did cheese Midra, but whatever, you know. It was pretty funny. You can check that out on my YouTube, obviously. I struggled on a few bosses, Mesmer and that dumb Commander Gaius boss, but overall I was having a blast this time around. After exploring and leveling up a ton to Scadu level 13, it was time for the main event. Promised Consort Radahn. Of course, I knew this boss was going to be incredibly difficult to beat, but I didn't really care. I was ready to die. And of course, I did. A lot. This dude kicked my ass in every direction, including other dimensions and realms. This fight was so hard that for a while it felt unfair. And yet I was having an absolute blast with every attempt. The more I died, the more motivated I became. Obviously, I experienced this with previous bosses, but nothing even came close as this guy. Phase 1 was pretty easy after a while, but Phase 2 was on a completely different plane. However, after every stupid flash that killed me in Phase 2, it only made me want to immediately start over and get right back into it. Naturally, like all boss fights, I eventually did beat this dude, and only in a measly 385 attempts. Easy. I felt amazing. It was like I was truly high at this point, and I didn't even know what to do with myself. I beat the final DLC boss. Life was complete, at least for a few hours. Now, most of you probably know that back in September of last year, Consort Radahn was nerfed in patch version 1.14 due to a ridiculous amount of complaints from the community. At least I assume that's why they patched him. Even really skilled and seasoned Souls players struggled with this boss. So the devs actually listened, and they nerfed the boss. And that is the version that I played. Because even though I started the DLC in August, I took that long break, and by the time I came back to Radahn, he had been nerfed. I was kind of bummed because I wanted to experience what all these other players got to. Having said that, I know some people died over 600 times to that version, so part of me was relieved. After all, I am not great at the game. Anyway, a lot of people joked about how it didn't count unless you beat Radahn pre-nerf. Well, some of those people were serious, but they don't count. Apologies if you are one of those people, but I mean, come on. Did my victory against this brutal boss actually not count? Well, of course not. It absolutely counted. I mean, I died almost 400 times to this guy. How could it not count? With that said, after beating Radahn, just a few hours later, I had a genius idea. I will find a way to fight pre-nerf Radahn, because I must. Now, of course, there is no way to roll back patches within a Steam game, as far as I know. However, through the means of some, let's call it magic, I acquired a version of Elden Ring from before the nerf. So I used Cheat Engine on this version of Elden Ring, version 1.12, and brought my original character from my main save back to life. So I went straight to Radahn, and I gave myself the same exact setup, same level, 222, same attributes, same sword, Morgoth's Cursed, maxed out, same armor, same talismans, physic tiers, and the same amount of flasks, again at plus 12. I was ready to go again. For some reason, with this mod, my attack damage was lower, even though I had this same setup. Not really a big deal, but it is worth noting. I'll be honest, I low-key thought that people were exaggerating when they said pre-nerf Radahn was way harder. I mean, how much harder could he possibly be? There's only so many things you can change. I was expecting the fight this time around to take maybe 50 more attempts to beat him, but man, was I wrong. Right off the bat, I noticed subtle differences. Nothing too major. Now, I won't go into a super in-depth comparison, as there are plenty of videos out there that have already done that much better than I could ever do. I just want to go over a few things. So, in short, some of his attacks were a little bit faster. This one in particular, I call it the stupid quick double cross slash attack. Now, in the nerfed version, that move is still very fast, but it's slowed down just enough to where you can dodge it consistently. In the pre-nerf, it is absurd. I mean, I dodge it right here, but most of the time, this is what happened. The next obvious difference I noticed was his blood flame attack. Overall, this attack is pretty much the same. In the nerf version, after he does this attack, you are always given a window to get a good hit in. For some reason, in the pre-nerf, it's kind of just random. You can either get a hit in or you can't. It's really a weird thing to change. One that I didn't think was necessary. Really, those two were the only moves that I noticed to be vastly different. Other than that, the real major difference was the hitboxes. In the pre-nerf, they were just a smidge too wide for a lot of the phase 2 attacks. Really, all you had to do was just be more accurate with the direction you were dodging his attacks. It's basically, just get good. So, if that's all it was, just these few little changes, then why did I struggle so hard to beat this pre-nerf version of Radahn after dying 384 times to the nerfed one? Well, the answer is pretty simple. I am bad at Elden Ring. You change a couple things, and it's like I have to almost relearn the boss in its entirety, which is why it took me an astounding 235 additional attempts to beat him this way. Which means I faced this boss a grand total of 620 times. And out of those attempts, I only beat him twice. So the big question is, was this all worth it? Dying nearly 400 times, and then again on the pre-nerf almost 250 times. The answer is absolutely. This boss is just fun. Plain and simple. Was I stressed out during this fight? At times, yes, but most of the time I was having a blast, and at the end of the day, that's what you want from a video game, to have fun. Anyway, thanks for watching and listening to my rant. Now, go outside. Jeesh. After you watch the next part, of course, which is the most glorious fight you will ever see. Enjoy.